All right, so police excessive force is definitely an issue today because you have, the entire news media, showing basically every action that a police officer does. So the main strategies that can help stop police brutality would be to start from the basics, the very beginning. And by doing that would be the hiring process. You know, I know a lot of departments need people, so you can't be too tough. You can't make it where it's impossible to be a police officer, but you also can't make it to the point where anybody is able to get in and now you have a whole range of people that you don't know who their true what their real true intentions are. And what I mean by that is you have a lot of people that want to be police officers mainly because they want the power. They want, they just see the badge, the gun, and everything else that comes with it. And if somebody even remotely says that's their reason they want to be a police officer, they should just be cut off from the very beginning. Now, see, a lot of people, though, they won't say that. They'll be smart. So, throughout the hiring process, you really, I think, psychologically need to evaluate people. I think that's more of a something they should focus on is psychologically evaluating people, see what their real mental status is at, interviewing more in depthly people they know, to figure out who these people really are. Because I know in the military, for one, that's something, when you go to MEPS, that's a huge deal. They do a whole huge background check on everything. So I think that's something police departments need to do mainly. And another thing is a lot of these people though they'll be the good person. They'll want to be a police officer for the right reasons. So they'll get hired. They have all the right intentions, but this is where the problems really stem, and this is where things get really complicated. Is where you have people that they're able to be police officers, but they don't have the mental capacity to do it. And what I mean by that is, you got, say, you got a lot of people, they go through the academy, they're able, they pass everything, they're able to do it, but then they get on the street and they actually have somebody coming at them, angry, visibly upset, and these people, they get tunnel vision, they have their stress just shoots through the roof, and you don't know how they're going to react. As an instructor, you think okay, they're doing well through training, but as soon as they hit the streets, you're praying to God that they are able to handle the situation. And a lot of these police officers today, they get on the street, they have somebody that's visibly upset, someone that isn't actively posing as a threat. They don't actively have a gun or a knife in their hands. They're just yelling. They're really mad. They don't know how to talk to police officers, respectfully. So these police officers, their stress, their tunnel vision, they automatically just go for their gun. And now you have a situation where you have somebody that is visibly unarmed and has no weapon at all in their hands. And now you have a police officer that is overreacting extremely to the point where he has a gun in some dude's head about to blow the trigger. And there is several cases of police officers just losing it, and then they squeeze the trigger off, and they say, "Oh my God, I just had tunnel vision. They're like, I could have swore he was reaching for something." And a lot of times you can watch the videos, and a lot of times the suspect they'll be visibly mad, but they won't be reaching for anything, And these police officers, they just overreact because they don't know how to deal with stress. A lot of times police work can be stressful. A lot of times you have, people that are really mad. They're upset something has happened, And it's not always just shooting. Actually, it's really a lot of times it's not shooting. A lot of times you'll have police just, aggressively tackling and throwing someone to the ground, just start beating them, just, repeatedly punching. You can't do that. If you have someone that is just mad at you, and okay, so now in your head you're thinking, okay, I have to put this guy under control. There's ways to do it. You can't just pick someone up, throw them to the ground, start beating them, repeatedly punching them until they're unconscious. You can't do that. What that shows is that officer could not deal with his stress. He has no mental capacity to deal with a stressful situation. And to me, that's not right. If you go into this profession, you need to be able to deal with your emotions. And you can't take it out on suspects, because then that's where the entire media and the community comes in. And that's another huge thing, is that you have a huge media presence today, a massive media presence in which any move you make that is remotely bad is going to be front line of every single news article, every single nighttime news program. That's going to be broadcasted all over. Your name, who you work for, and what happened. And that alone will make you look bad, the department look bad, the city look bad, and none of the people in the community are going to back you. You're going to be literally on the side of the road, pretty much dead. And that's if you screw up. Now, of course, there's times where there's justified shootings. There's a lot of that. But even then, I think even a lot of justified shootings, there could have been other ways. There's always another way. Now, sometimes there's not, though. Sometimes you have to shoot somebody, and you have to shoot somebody. That's just what has to go down. But, some cases where, I thought he had something, a lot of those can be justified, but still, given the circumstance, if it's broad daylight and you thought he had something, if you can visibly see, I think a lot of issues is you can't be trigger happy. You have to know exactly when, at the exact right time, it has to process in your head, okay, he's armed and I have to shoot him. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then you're going to be using excessive force, and you have to, at that point, pray to God that they claim it's justified. And that stress is probably extremely, I can only imagine what that could be like. So I think the issues today that can solve police excessive use of force is by starting at the bottom, and I think a lot more training should be implemented into police and how they should operate. Because I know personally, in the military, we are constantly doing different scenarios. You'll have like a mock village, for example. You do a patrol through the village. You'll have a group of people come at you. You have your M4s, and you're scanning, and you're watching everybody. And as soon as somebody pulls out a gun, you have justification. Then if you visibly see it, that's the only time we can even shoot. That is the only time. We can't assume. We can't see. A lot of times people will grab something out their pockets, they'll be digging in their pockets, and police sometimes overreact and just start shooting and unload 20 rounds into a dude. You can't do that. If someone's digging in their pockets, okay, yeah, your presence, your status should be gun trained on him, and you should be ready to fire. But you need to be watching exactly what his hands are doing, what he's digging, and you also have to have your backup. You can't be the only guy standing there. You gotta have your backup, and you guys gotta find a way to get him to the ground. And as soon as he pulls out a gun or a knife, well, there's your justification. but I think a lot more training should be implemented so that um, these police officers know they have that mindset that they're able to deal with the stress and the adrenaline rush, because it is an adrenaline rush. When we do all these scenarios, we train as we fight. So we have, live weapons. We use simulation rounds though, and it is an adrenaline rush when you're going into a building and you go into a room and you have your gun trained on people and your fingers on the trigger. Yeah, it is definitely an adrenaline rush. Your heart's pumping, your breathing is heavy, and that little 8-pound M4 rifle feels like it's 20 pounds. Everything gets more intense. But the more you do it, the more you practice, it becomes a muscle memory. So now you're scanning, you're focused more intently. You don't get tunnel vision. That's the problem today. There's a lot of police officers, they get tunnel vision. They just see what's exactly in front of them. They don't see what's around them. They don't see what's going on below them. They just see exactly what they're staring at. And they just overreact. They just kind of lose it. A lot of times they don't even realize they squeeze the trigger. So but yeah, that's basically it. Excessive use of force comes down to the individual. The more that individual, the more resilient and the more training, the more experience that person has, then the very less likely that they're going to be beating somebody to the ground or let their emotions, get the best of them. You can't be some emotional, hothead that just loses it all the time. If you're like that personally, if you can't be chill, if you can't be calm, you have no business. You shouldn't be a police officer. That's just the bottom line. If you cannot control your emotions or handle stress, because this job is, from what I think, from what I've seen, it's extremely stressful. What other job? The media is constantly watching you. Every move you make is going to be watched. So you should definitely be able to handle your emotions. That's what I think.